Teotihuacan, the mysterious city of the gods, ancient Mexico's lost metropolis, circa 500 CE.
Just a stone's throw from the bustling heart of modern Mexico City, a different world sleeps. Here, in these quiet valleys, a cool mist clings to the ground, wrapping ancient stones in a silent embrace. It's a place of profound stillness, where the wind whispers secrets of a forgotten time. But don't let the tranquility fool you. Beneath this blanket of clouds lies the ghost of a metropolis, a city that once dwarfed ancient Rome, a titan of the Americas. Imagine standing here 2,000 years ago. The silence of today would be replaced by the rhythmic beat of drums, the murmur of 100,000 voices, and the crackle of countless fires lighting up the night sky. This wasn't just a settlement. It was a cosmic stage, an urban marvel meticulously designed to mirror the heavens. Its name, given by the Aztecs, who discovered its ruins centuries after its fall, means the place where the gods were created. They were so awestruck by its scale and perfection that they believed it could only be the work of giants or deities. And in a way, they were right. The people who built Teotihuacan were giants of architecture, astronomy, and art. Yet, for all its grandeur, Teotihuacan is shrouded in mystery. Who were these people? What language did they speak? What did they call their magnificent city? We don't have the definitive answers. Unlike the Maya or the Aztecs, they left behind no decipherable written language, no grand stories of their kings or conquests. Their history is told not in words, but in stone, in the silent alignment of their pyramids with the stars, and in the haunting eyes of the murals that still adorn their palace walls. They're a civilization defined by their spectacular achievements and their equally spectacular disappearance. So, how did a city of this magnitude, home to an estimated 125,000 people at its peak, simply vanish from the pages of history? What forces, be it war, rebellion, or a catastrophic environmental shift, led to its collapse? Around the year 558, for centuries, its grand avenues were deserted, its temples fell silent, and its plazas were reclaimed by nature, waiting to be rediscovered. Join me as we walk these ancient avenues, from the sprawling citadel and the temple of the feathered serpent to the grand pyramid of the moon. We'll climb the colossal pyramid of the sun, the third largest pyramid in the world, and try to imagine the view from its summit, sprawling grid of temples, palaces, and apartment compounds stretching to the horizon. We will decode the silent language of its art, from fierce jaguars to benevolent water gods, piecing together the beliefs and daily lives of its enigmatic inhabitants. This is more than just a tour of ruins. It's a journey into the heart of one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. We will sift through the archaeological evidence, explore the leading theories, and confront the unsettling questions that still linger in the air. We are peeling back the layers of time, digging beneath the mist to uncover the story of the city where gods were born, the magnificent and mysterious. Before we delve deeper into the Avenue of the Dead, let's pause and consider the sheer ingenuity it took to build this place. The city is laid out on a precise grid, oriented 15.5 degrees east of true north. This wasn't a random choice. This alignment is tied to celestial events, a cosmic calendar etched onto the very landscape. The main thoroughfare, mistakenly named the Avenue of the Dead by the Aztecs, wasn't a collection of tombs, but the vibrant, beating heart of the city, a grand processional way flanked by temples and elite residences. Imagine the sights and sounds. The avenue, possibly covered in brilliant white stucco and painted with rich red pigments, would have been a hive of activity. Priests in elaborate feathered headdresses, merchants carrying exotic goods from as far as the Maya lands, and pilgrims from across Mesoamerica would have thronged this very path. The air would have been thick with the scent of incense, the aroma of food cooking in the nearby apartment compounds, and the sounds of a complex, thriving society. These apartment compounds themselves were a revolutionary concept. Unlike other ancient cities with a simple division of elites and commoners, Teotihuacan housed the majority of its population in large, multifamily, single-story apartment buildings. These weren't drab tenements. Many were beautifully decorated with murals, featuring central courtyards open to the sky, allowing for light and community life. It speaks to a level of urban planning and social organization that was centuries ahead of its time. As we explore these structures, we find clues about who lived here. We see evidence of specialized craftspeople, obsidian workers creating razor-sharp blades and points, potters mass-producing iconic tripod vessels, and muralists painting divine and natural scenes that tell us about their worldview. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, including a great goddess who appears to be the city's primary deity, and the famous feathered serpent, Quetzal, a god whose influence would spread across Mesoamerica for 1,000 years. But what held this diverse, multi-ethnic city together? Was it a powerful king? A council of elites? A shared religious ideology? The lack of royal tombs or individualistic monuments is one of the city's most puzzling aspects. Power here seems to have been expressed collectively, through the monumental architecture and shared religious symbols, rather than through the glorification of a single ruler. It's a model of governance that challenges our typical understanding of ancient empires. This journey is just beginning. The story of Teotihuacan is one of innovation, of cosmic vision, and of a sudden, dramatic end that still echoes through the valleys of central Mexico. Asjue, continue. We will look closer at the evidence for the city's violent downfall and its lasting legacy that would profoundly shape the civilizations that followed, including the mighty Aztecs. Thank you so much for joining me on this first step into the mystery. If you're fascinated by the lost worlds of the past, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter in our exploration of Teotihuacan. See you in the next video. Imagine you're trekking through the dense highlands of central Mexico. It's the 17th century. The air is thick with humidity, and the landscape is a sea of green. Suddenly, through a break in the trees, you see it, a colossal stone pyramid, larger than anything you've ever witnessed, piercing the sky. Then, another, and a wide, straight avenue stretching for miles, flanked by smaller, yet still monumental, structures. This isn't a dream. This is the moment European eyes first laid sight on the ruins of a lost metropolis, a city so vast and ancient it defied all explanation. This was the scene that greeted the first explorers who stumbled upon what we now call Teotihuacan. They were utterly baffled. The scale of the construction was mind-boggling. The Pyramid of the Sun, a man-made mountain of stone and earth, towered over the valley. The Pyramid of the Moon stood sentinel at the end of a grand ceremonial road, the Avenue of the Dead. Who could have built such a place? The local people, descendants of the once mighty Aztec Empire, had no clear answers. This city was ancient, even to their ancestors. They spoke of it in hushed, reverent tones, a place of myths and legends. The Aztecs, who found the city already abandoned and in ruins centuries before the Spanish arrived, were so awestruck that they gave it its name, Teotihuacan, in their Nahuatl language. This means the place where the gods were born, or the birthplace of the gods. They believed that this was the sacred site where the universe itself was created, where the sun and the moon first rose into the sky. For them, it wasn't a city built by mortals, but a divine landscape, a point of creation. They saw the great pyramids not as tombs or temples of a forgotten king, but as the very spot where deities sacrificed themselves to bring light to the world. They incorporated Teotihuacan into their own cosmology, making pilgrimages to its silent streets and leaving offerings at its imposing structures. The original name, the language of its builders, had been lost to time. All that remained was this powerful, mythical moniker, bestowed by a later culture that was just as mystified as we are. This initial confusion set the stage for centuries of mystery. Early archaeologists who arrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries faced a monumental task. The site was enormous, much of it buried under layers of soil and vegetation. Pioneering Mexican archaeologists like Leopoldo Baeters began the first major excavations at the turn of the 20th century. His work, particularly on the Pyramid of the Sun, was groundbreaking. He and his teams of workers literally peeled back the earth to reveal the pyramid's 5 massive tiers. They were digging not just into dirt, but into the past, trying to solve a puzzle with most of its pieces missing. The central question haunted them. Who were the Teotihuacanos? They clearly weren't the Aztecs. The art style was completely different. The pottery, the murals, the distinct architectural style known as asterisk TALUD dash TABLERO. Asterisk dash a sloping base with a vertical panel was unique. It predated the Aztecs by 1,000 years. Were they the Toltecs, another legendary civilization from Mexican lore? For a time, this was the leading theory. But as more evidence was unearthed, it became clear that Teotihuacan was even older, a mother culture that influenced later civilizations, including the Toltecs and the Aztecs, but was distinct from them. Imagine the excitement of those early digs. Every shovel of dirt could reveal a new clue. One day, it might be a fragment of a vibrant mural showing a mysterious goddess with a bird-like headdress, often called the Great Goddess of Teotihuacan. Another day, a cache of obsidian blades, expertly crafted, hinting at a vast trade network, or perhaps a burial, not of a king, but of dozens of individuals, possibly sacrificed to dedicate a new phase of a pyramid's construction. These discoveries were electrifying, but they also deepened the mystery. The city had no recognizable writing system like the Maya glyphs. There were no carved portraits of all-powerful rulers with their names and deeds listed. The story of Teotihuacan had to be pieced together from silent stones, enigmatic symbols, and the arrangement of the city itself. The city's layout was a revelation. It wasn't a chaotic jumble of buildings, but a meticulously planned grid, aligned with celestial events. The Avenue of the Dead, running north-south, and a perpendicular east-west avenue divided the city into quadrants. It was a cosmic map laid out on the valley floor. This level of planning suggested a powerful, centralized authority, a government capable of mobilizing a massive workforce over generations to realize a singular, sacred vision. But who were they? Were they priests? A council of nobles, a single, anonymous dynasty. The city kept its secrets well hidden. As the decades of the 20th century rolled on, the work continued. Archaeologists like Manuel Gamillo championed a more holistic approach, studying not just the pyramids, but the lives of the common people in the surrounding apartment compounds. 10K Mati. Teotihuacan Mapping Project. In the 1960s, which for the first time revealed the true extent of the city's sprawling urban center of nearly 8 square miles, home to potentially over 100,000 people. This was one of the largest cities in the world during its heyday, a bustling metropolis of artisans, merchants, priests, and pilgrims from all over Mesoamerica. The discovery of Teotihuacan wasn't a single event, but a slow, unfolding revelation that continues to this day. From the first awestruck explorers to the meticulous work of generations of Mexican archaeologists, the journey to understand this city has been as epic as the city itself. They uncovered the ruins, but the identity of its builders remained shrouded in the mist of the past. A silent civilization whose legacy was so profound that later cultures believed it was the work of the gods. And in a way, they were right. The people who built Teotihuacan created a universe in stone, a testament to a vision and power that still inspires awe and wonder. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. The story of Teotihuacan is far from over, and there are still so many secrets buried beneath the soil. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of the ancient world. See you next time.
Hello, and welcome back to our journey through the annals of history.
Today, we're diving deep into the heart of ancient Mexico, into a valley that would become the cradle of one of the most mysterious and magnificent civilizations the world has ever known. Long before the eagle and the serpent marked the spot for the Aztec capital, another story was unfolding, a story of fire, faith, and the forging of a metropolis. Our story begins centuries before the rise of the Aztec Empire, in the fertile valley of Mexico. This wasn't an empty land. It was a mosaic of peoples, a crossroads of cultures. But the world was changing. Imagine the ground trembling, the sky turning dark with ash. Massive volcanic eruptions, like the one from Zytel around the 1st century BC, were reshaping the landscape and rewriting destinies. Entire communities were forced to flee, abandoning their homes and fields. These were not just aimless wanderers. They were farmers, artisans, and priests, carrying with them their traditions, their knowledge, and their gods. Driven by these cataclysmic events and the natural tides of migration, streams of people from all corners of Mesoamerica began to converge on one specific area in the valley. It was a place of promise, rich with resources, and perhaps, most importantly, a sense of security. It was here, around 100 BCE, that the first seeds of a new city were sown. What started as a modest, perhaps unassuming, collection of villages and small settlements was about to experience an explosive transformation. No one at the time could have possibly imagined that these humble beginnings were the overture to the grand symphony of a city that would one day rival Rome in its size and splendor. The legendary city of Teotihuacan. So, how did this collection of refugee settlements and local villages balloon into a thriving urban center? The answer lies in a perfect storm of opportunity and ingenuity. The newcomers brought with them diverse skills. The farmers knew how to work the fertile valley floor, harnessing its potential to feed a growing population. The craftsmen possessed the knowledge to work with obsidian, a volcanic glass abundant in the region. This black, razor-sharp stone would become the economic lifeblood of the city. The priests and leaders provided the social glue, uniting disparate groups under a shared vision and a powerful new religious ideology. The early layout of the city reflects this rapid, almost feverish growth. It wasn't just expanding outward. It was being meticulously planned. Early ceremonial structures began to appear. Alignments were made with the stars, and a grid plan was starting to take shape. This wasn't a city born of chaos, but one of deliberate design. The population swelled. Archaeologists estimate that within a couple of centuries, the city's population grew from just a few thousand to tens of thousands. People were drawn to Teotihuacan, not just for safety, but for the economic opportunities and the spiritual power that was beginning to radiate from its nascent core. This period, from roughly 100 BCE to 01 CE, was the city's infancy. It was a time of consolidation, of forging a new, unique identity from the blend of many. The language they spoke is still a mystery. Their exact system of government, a puzzle, but what they built speaks volumes. They were laying the foundations for the colossal pyramids and grand avenues that would later define the city. They were creating a new kind of urban life, one that would influence cultures across Mesoamerica for the next 1,000 years. What was it like to live in this burgeoning city? Imagine the sounds, the constant chipping of obsidian, the murmur of different dialects in the marketplace, the chants from the top of small, newly built temple platforms. Imagine the sights, the dust of construction ever present in the air, the bright colors of murals being painted on the walls of new residential compounds, and the imposing sight of the mountains ringing the valley, a constant reminder of the forces that had brought them all here. This early Teotihuacan was a melting pot. We see evidence of this in the pottery styles, which show influences from the Gulf Coast, from Oaxaca, and from the Maya regions. Yet, a distinct Teotihuacano style was emerging, a testament to the powerful cultural fusion taking place. This wasn't just a place to live. It was a place to become someone new, a citizen of a city that was looking toward the heavens and building for eternity. As the first century CE dawned, the city was on the cusp of its golden age. The initial settlement had grown into a powerhouse. The leadership, whoever they were, a single, powerful king. A council of elites had successfully harnessed the manpower and the faith of a diverse population. They were ready to embark on some of the most ambitious construction projects in human history. The modest ceremonial centers were about to be replaced by the Pyramid of the Moon and the awe-inspiring Pyramid of the Sun. The birth of Teotihuacan is a remarkable story of resilience and creativity. It shows how, out of the chaos of natural disaster and social upheaval, a new order can arise. It's a testament to the human ability to come together, to plan, and to build something far greater than the sum of its parts. This city, born from volcanic fire, would go on to cast a long shadow over the future of Mesoamerica, becoming a sacred place of pilgrimage even for the Aztecs, who arrived centuries after its mysterious fall and named it the place where the gods were created. The foundations were laid, the people were gathered, and the stage was set. The era of the Great Pyramids was about to begin, and the valley would never be the same again. We'll explore that monumental construction and the city's golden age in our next chapter. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button. And do UNT forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do UNT miss what's coming next. We've got so much more to uncover together. See you in the next video. Ever wonder how an ancient city could be built with such mind-boggling precision? Let's travel back in time to Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, and uncover the secrets behind its incredible urban planning. This wasn't just a random collection of buildings. It was a masterpiece of ancient engineering and cosmic alignment. The story of Teotihuacan begins not with a single stone, but with a grand vision. Its builders didn't just see an empty valley. They saw a canvas on which to paint a sacred city, a mirror of the heavens on earth. The entire city was laid out on a massive, geometric grid, a feat of surveying that would be impressive even today. But what guided their hand? The stars. Astronomical observations were at the heart of Teotihuacan's design. The city's main thoroughfare, the legendary Avenue of the Dead, isn't just a random road. It's deliberately oriented about 15.5 degrees east of true north. Why this specific angle? It's believed this alignment points to the rising position of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial group deeply significant to many Mesoamerican cultures. This wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about embedding cosmic order into the very fabric of daily life. Imagine standing at one end of this monumental avenue. It stretches for over 2.5 miles, a grand ceremonial path connecting the city's most sacred structures. It wasn't called the Avenue of the Dead by its original inhabitants, by the way. That name came much later from the Aztecs, who discovered the city in ruins and mistook the platforms lining the avenue for tombs. For the Teotihuacanos, this was the vibrant, pulsating heart of their world. Flanking this grand artery were the city's architectural marvels. To the north, dominating the skyline, stands the Pyramid of the Moon, perfectly framing the mountain behind it. Cerro Gordo. This isn't a coincidence. The pyramid was intentionally designed to mimic the mountain's shape, creating a powerful link between the man-made and the natural, the sacred mountain and the sacred temple. Further down the avenue, we encounter the colossal Pyramid of the Sun. This is one of the largest structures ever built in the ancient Americas. Its base is nearly the same size as the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. And beneath it, archaeologists discovered a natural cave, a cloverleaf-shaped tunnel leading to a chamber directly under the pyramid's center. This cave was likely seen as a seppuku, a place of origin from which the first humans emerged, making this spot incredibly sacred and the logical foundation for their most important temple. The construction of these pyramids was a monumental undertaking. Millions of tons of volcanic rock, dirt, and adobe bricks were moved and assembled without the help of metal tools, wheels, or pack animals. It was sheer human power, organization, and unwavering faith that raised these structures toward the heavens. Each layer was carefully planned, each stone placed with purpose. But Teotihuacan wasn't just temples and pyramids. It was a bustling metropolis, home to over 100,000 people at its peak. The city's grid system extended beyond the ceremonial center. It organized the residential areas into apartment compounds, large multi-family dwellings that housed artisans, farmers, and merchants. These compounds weren't just blocks of flats. They were self-contained units with central patios, drainage systems, and beautifully painted murals depicting gods, animals, and scenes from daily life. This systematic layout had practical benefits. It allowed for efficient water management, with a complex network of underground drains preventing flooding during the rainy season. It also facilitated social organization, creating distinct neighborhoods, perhaps based on kinship or craft specialization. You might have a potter's district here, a stonemason's quarter there. This level of organization speaks to a powerful central authority, a government capable of planning and executing a project on a scale rarely seen in the ancient world. Let's talk more about the Avenue of the Dead. As you walk its length, you're not just on a street. You're on a journey. The path rises and falls, creating a dramatic sense of procession. The structures are arranged using a principle called tala tablero architecture, a signature style of Teotihuacan. This involves an inward-sloping surface, the talud, topped by a vertical, often decorated panel. This repeated pattern gives the entire city a unique and cohesive architectural identity. It's like a brand, stamping every major building with the mark of Teotihuacan. One of the most fascinating structures is the citadel, a vast sunken square located further south. Within it lies the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. This pyramid is smaller than the Sun and Moon pyramids, but is far more ornate. Its facade was once covered with hundreds of carved stone heads of the feathered serpent deity and another figure, possibly a storm god. These carvings weren't just decoration. They were powerful religious symbols, telling stories of creation and divine power. The very planning of the city, from the grand cosmic alignments to the layout of individual apartments, reflects a deeply held worldview. For the people of Teotihuacan, their city was the center of the universe, a place where the human and divine worlds intersected. The geometry wasn't just for efficiency. It was a way of creating harmony and order in a chaotic world. Living in Teotihuacan meant living within a sacred landscape, where every street corner and every building was imbued with meaning. So, how did they do it? How did they achieve such precision? They likely used simple but effective tools, gnomons, or shadow sticks, for astronomical alignment, and long measuring cords for laying out the grid. But their most powerful tool was their knowledge and deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, all in service of a profound spiritual vision. The deliberate, massive, and geometric layout of Teotihuacan is a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of its creators. It was a city designed to last for eternity, a cosmogram built of stone, a perfectly planned city of the gods that continues to awe and inspire us thousands of years later. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the heart of ancient planning. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of the past. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Welcome back, explorers. Today, we re-journeying to the heart of one of the most mysterious and magnificent cities of the ancient world. Teotihuacan, and at its very core stands a monument so vast, so unspearing, it seems to touch the heavens themselves. This is Chapter 5, the Pyramid of the Sun. Imagine standing at its base, gazing up at this colossal structure. It's not just big, it's the third largest pyramid in the world. For the people of Teotihuacan, this wasn't just a building, it was the center of their universe, a man-made mountain connecting the earth to the sky. It dominates the landscape, a powerful symbol of the city's might and its deep spiritual beliefs. From the top, you can see the entire city laid out before you, a testament to the incredible planning and vision of its builders. This pyramid was, and still is, the beating heart of Teotihuacan. So, how did they do it? How did an ancient civilization, without modern machinery, create something on this scale? The construction of the Pyramid of the Sun is a masterpiece of engineering and sheer human effort. It's built in a tablero style, with sloping bases and vertical panels, a signature of Teotihuacan architecture. But the real secret lies beneath. The pyramid was constructed over a natural cave, a place of immense spiritual significance. This sacred cave, shaped like a four-petaled flower, was believed to be a jicama stock, a mythical place of origin, the womb from which the first humans, and even the gods, emerged. The entire pyramid was built to honor and protect this sacred spot. Can you imagine the reverence they had for this place? They literally built a mountain over the birthplace of their gods. The pyramid itself is made of millions of cubic feet of earth and volcanic rock, faced with meticulously cut stone and originally covered in gleaming plaster, painted a vibrant red that would have blazed under the Mexican sun. Tens of thousands of workers would have labored for decades, quarrying stone, hauling materials, and carefully layering them to create this monumental structure. It wasn't built for a single pharaoh or king, but as a collective project for the entire city, a testament to their shared faith and community. But the genius of Teotihuacan's builders goes even further. The pyramid isn't just randomly placed. Its alignment is incredibly precise and deeply meaningful. The entire structure is oriented to mark key astronomical events, most notably the summer solstice. If you stand on the Avenue of the Dead and watch the sunset on the solstice, you'll see the sun dip down directly in front of the pyramid's peak. This isn't a coincidence. It's a cosmic clock, a calendar built of stone. This alignment allowed the city's priests to track the seasons, predict agricultural cycles, and organize their ritual calendar. For a society dependent on farming, this connection to the sun was life itself. The pyramid was their direct line to the cosmos, a way to understand the rhythms of the universe and their place within it. Think about the level of astronomical knowledge and architectural precision required to achieve this. It's absolutely staggering. They were watching the stars and embedding that celestial knowledge into the very fabric of their city. So, what happened at the summit? Climbing the 248 steps to the top wasn't for a casual afternoon stroll. It was a sacred pilgrimage. The summit of the Pyramid of the Sun was a stage for the most important rituals in the Teotihuacan world. This was where the earthly realm met the divine. Imagine the scene. Priests in elaborate costumes, adorned with feathers and jade, ascending the grand staircase. The air thick with the smell of burning copal incense. The sounds of drums and flutes echoing across the city below. From this high platform, they would have performed ceremonies to honor the gods, particularly the great goddess, a powerful female deity, and a storm god who would later be known to the Aztecs as Tla. These rituals were about maintaining balance and ensuring the continued prosperity of the city. They were offerings made to appease the gods and secure their favor to bring rain for the crops, success in warfare, and health for the people. While the exact nature of all the rituals is still debated by archaeologists, discoveries of ceremonial offerings, including precious objects and the remains of sacrificial burials found within the pyramid. These weren't just simple prayers. They were powerful, dramatic performances designed to be seen by the thousands gathered in the plaza below. The pyramid was an immense theater, and the rituals were the grand spectacle that bound the community together. It was a shared experience of awe and reverence, reinforcing the social order and the city's collective faith. Standing up there, you were literally on top of their world, at the intersection of humanity and divinity. The Pyramid of the Sun asks us more questions than it answers. Who were its builders? What was the name they called their magnificent city? The name Teotihuacan was given by the Aztecs centuries later. It means the place where the gods were created. For them, this was a mythical, ancient city, its origins lost to time. The city was mysteriously abandoned around 550 AD. The people vanished, and the reasons remain one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. Was it internal strife, climate change, or resource depletion? We don't know for sure. But what they left behind is this enduring monument. The Pyramid of the Sun has weathered centuries of change. It saw the rise and fall of the Toltecs, and the Aztecs survived the Spanish conquest and now stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, visited by millions. It serves as a powerful reminder of the incredible achievements of ancient peoples and the enduring mysteries of human history. When you stand in its shadow, you can't help but feel a connection to the past, a sense of wonder about the civilization that dreamed this monumental structure into existence. It is more than a ruin. It's a living testament to a lost world, a puzzle waiting to be fully understood, and an icon of human ingenuity and spiritual devotion. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey to the Pyramid of the Sun. There is so much more to explore in the amazing city of Teotihuacan. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more adventures into the past. Drop a comment below and let me know what ancient wonder you'd like to see next. Until then, stay curious. Welcome back, fellow explorers. We're now arriving at the majestic northern end of the Avenue of the Dead, a place where the earth seems to reach for the heavens. This is chapter 6 of our journey, the Pyramid of the Moon. Take a moment to just absorb the view. Look behind the pyramid. See that mountain? Cerro. The ancient builders of Teotihuacan didn't just place this pyramid here by chance. They shaped it to echo, to mimic the sacred mountain that frames it. It's a breathtaking example of how this civilization integrated their architecture with the natural landscape, creating a harmony between human creation and the divine power of nature. The Pyramid of the Moon may be slightly smaller than its sibling, the Pyramid of the Sun, but don't let its size fool you. Its spiritual significance is immense, perhaps even more complex. While the Pyramid of the Sun was a monument to creation and celestial power, the Pyramid of the Moon was a stage for the most profound rituals of life, death, and power. As you stand here, you're standing on ground that was once the focal point for some of the city's most important ceremonies. For a long time, the secrets of this pyramid were locked deep within its stone layers. Unlike the Pyramid of the Sun, which was heavily looted in ancient times, the Pyramid of the Moon held its treasures close. It wasn't until relatively recently, starting in the late 1990s, that archaeologists began to uncover the astonishing story hidden inside. Through a process of careful tunneling, they discovered that this wasn't just one solid structure, but a series of 7 pyramids, each one built on top of the last, like a Russian nesting doll of stone. Each construction phase, each new layer, marked a new era in Teotihuacan's history, a new dedication. And what they found inside these layers was simply stunning. They didn't find a single royal tomb like in ancient Egypt. Instead, they found a series of dedicatory caches, ritual burials that tell a chilling and fascinating story about the power and beliefs of this enigmatic culture. Let's journey into the heart of the pyramid, into what archaeologists call Budia those here. They unearthed a single individual, laid to rest with an incredible array of offerings. There were more than 400 objects. Obsidian blades, projectile points, Huma figurines made of greenstone, and ornaments crafted from shimmering shell. But that's not all. This individual was accompanied by the remains of eagles, pumas, jaguars, and even wolves. These weren't just animals. They were potent symbols of military might and shamanic power. It was clear this wasn't an ordinary burial. It was a powerful statement. Deeper still, in Burial 5, the story became even more intricate. Here, archaeologists found the remains of 3 Hestatus individuals, possibly foreigners from the Maya region, seated with their hands tied behind their backs. They were adorned with magnificent jade jewelry, including a pectoral that was a masterpiece of Maya craftsmanship. But they weren't alone. They were surrounded by the remains of pumas, eagles, and other powerful predators, all seemingly buried alive in cages. It was a scene of sacrifice, a ritual meant to consecrate the pyramid and display the far-reaching power of Teotihuacan. These discoveries completely changed our understanding of the city. They showed us a Teotihuacan that wasn't just a peaceful city of merchants and priests, but a powerful state that engaged in ritual sacrifice and warfare to maintain its dominance. The Pyramid of the Moon was its primary stage for these displays of cosmic and military power. The victims, both human and animal, were offerings to the gods, meant to nourish the cosmos and ensure the city's prosperity. Let's look at the structure itself. The plaza in front of the pyramid, known as the Plaza of the Moon, is a masterpiece of urban design. It's flanked by smaller platforms and temples, creating a sacred enclosure. At the center is a unique altar, a cross-shaped structure that likely played a key role in the ceremonies held here. Imagine this. Plaza filled with thousands of people, watching as priests and rulers ascended the pyramid's grand staircase. The air would have been thick with the scent of burning copal incense, the sounds of drums and chants echoing off the stone walls. It would have been an awe-inspiring and likely terrifying spectacle. The pyramid's design also gives us clues about its divine dedication. Many scholars believe it was dedicated to a powerful female deity, often called the Great Goddess of Teotihuacan. She appears in murals throughout the city, often depicted as a source of water, fertility, and life, but also with fearsome, fanged features that link her to the underworld and sacrifice. The offerings found within the pyramid, with their strong connections to water, earth, and military power, aligned perfectly with the complex nature of this goddess. The Pyramid of the Moon was her sacred mountain, the place where the worlds of the gods, humans, and the dead converged. As we move through the Plaza of the Moon, notice the 10 smaller altars that dot the space. They seem to create a kind of ritual circuit, perhaps guiding processions during important ceremonies. The entire complex is a carefully orchestrated environment, designed to guide the participants' experience and focus their attention on the pyramid itself. Every angle, every structure, was intentional. It was architecture as a form of communication, a way to express the city's cosmology and its place in the universe. Think about the sheer human effort required. For over 300 years, Generation after generation of Teotihuacanos labored to build and rebuild this monument. They quarried the stone, mixed the mortar, and painstakingly raised this structure, layer by layer, without the aid of metal tools, draft animals, or the wheel. This pyramid wasn't just a building. It was a multi-generational act of faith, a testament to the enduring power of their beliefs. The ceremonial burials weren't just about ending lives. They were about creating and sustaining them, in a cosmic sense, by sacrificing powerful animals and high-status captives. The rulers of Teotihuacan were feeding the gods and demonstrating their control over the most potent forces in the universe. It was a transaction. The offerings found, from shimmering green stone to sharp obsidian, were not just wealth. They were imbued with spiritual energy, essential ingredients in these powerful rituals. As we prepared to leave the shadow of this incredible monument, let's reflect on its legacy. The Pyramid of the Moon stands as a powerful testament to the complexity of Teotihuacan society. It was a place of immense beauty and profound ritual, a sacred mountain where the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds blurred. It reminds us that behind the silent stones of ancient cities lie dramatic stories of power, faith, and sacrifice. The secrets it has revealed have rewritten history, and it's a certainty that it still holds many more, waiting for the day they will finally be uncovered. Thank you for joining me at the Pyramid of the Moon. This has been a truly profound stop on our journey. If you're finding this exploration as fascinating as I am, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps us continue to bring these ancient wonders to you. Join me next time as we explore another marvel of this incredible city. Until then, keep exploring. Welcome back to our journey through the heart of ancient Mesoamerica. Today, we stand before one of the most breathtaking and enigmatic structures of the ancient world. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent in Teotihuacan. You might also know it by the name of the deity it honors. As we gaze upon its intricate facade, it's easy to be captivated by its beauty. But this temple holds a story far more complex and chilling than its stunning stonework suggests. It's a story of divine power, artistic mastery, and a dark secret buried deep within its foundations for centuries. So, let's step closer and unravel the mysteries carved into these ancient stones. At first glance, the temple is an absolute masterpiece. It's the third largest pyramid in Teotihuacan, smaller than the pyramids of the sun and moon. But what it lacks in sheer size, it more than makes up for in artistic detail. The structure is part of a larger complex known as the Citadel, a massive sunken square that was likely the political and religious heart of the city. As we approach the main facade, you can see the incredible craftsmanship. The technique used here is called talit table, a signature style of Teotihuacan architecture featuring a sloping base. The talit, supporting a vertical, often decorated, panel. The tablero, but it's the decorations on these panels that truly set this temple apart. Look closely. Projecting from the walls are hundreds of masterfully carved stone heads. They alternate in rows, creating a mesmerizing and powerful pattern. The first, and most prominent, is the head of the feathered serpent itself. You can see the reptilian features, the bared fangs, and the magnificent collar of feathers encircling its neck. This deity was one of the most important in the Mesoamerican pantheon, often associated with creation, wisdom, the wind, and the planet Venus. Its presence here signifies the immense importance of this temple. Alternating with the serpent heads is another fascinating figure. For a long time, this was thought to be Tlaloc, the god of rain and storms, identifiable by what looked like goggle-like eyes. However, recent scholarship suggests this might be a different entity, entirely perhaps a headdress or an emblem, representing a kind of divine military power associated with the jaguar or even a crocodilian creature. You can see the distinct, almost geometric eyes and the two circles above its snout. These figures are not just decoration. They are powerful symbols, a visual language, telling a story of cosmic order, divine authority, and the very forces that govern the lives of the Teotihuacan. The entire facade is also adorned with carved seashells and marine motifs, suggesting connections to water, fertility, and the underworld. It's a symphony in stone. For decades, the world marveled at the temple's beauty, believing it to be a pure monument to a benevolent creator god. But in the 1980s, archaeologists began a series of excavations that would forever change our understanding of this sacred place. As they tunneled into the heart of the pyramid, they weren't just finding rubble and dirt. They found something else. Something deliberate. They found human remains, not just one or two, but dozens, and then hundreds. It became clear that this was not an ordinary burial. This was a mass sacrifice. Beneath the very foundations of this glorious temple, over 200 individuals had been ritually sacrificed and buried. The discoveries were staggering. The victims were arranged in specific, highly symbolic patterns. Many were found at the corners of the structure and along its central axis. The majority of them were young men, likely warriors, as evidenced by the weaponry found with the obsidian projectile points and slate-back mirrors, which were symbols of military status. They were buried with their hands tied behind their backs, suggesting they were captives brought to the city for this very purpose. But they weren't the only ones. Among the warriors were also young women, adorned with intricate jewelry made of shell and greenstone. Their offerings were different, perhaps symbolizing a different role in this cosmic ritual. In the very center of the pyramid, a group of 20 individuals were buried together in a single pit, surrounded by an incredible wealth of offerings. These weren't just random acts of violence. This was a meticulously planned, deeply symbolic event. The arrangement of the bodies, the types of offerings, and the sheer scale of the sacrifice all point to a massive dedicatory ceremony, consecrating the temple with human life. This discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. It revealed a much darker, more militaristic side to Teotihuacan society than had previously been imagined. Before this, Teotihuacan was often seen as a peaceful, theocratic state, a contrast to the later, more famously warlike Aztecs. But the evidence here was undeniable. The sacrifice at the Temple of the Feathered Serpent showed that ritual violence was a central part of their state religion, used to dedicate their most sacred monuments and demonstrate the power of their rulers. What could possibly motivate such a massive sacrifice? The answer lies in their worldview. For the people of Teotihuacan, the universe was a delicate balance that required constant maintenance through ritual. The gods gave life, but they also required nourishment in return, and the most potent offering was human life itself. By sacrificing these individuals' likely captured enemy, warriors, the rulers of Teotihuacan, were not just being cruel. In their eyes, they were feeding the gods, ensuring the continuation of the cosmos, the fertility of the land, and the prosperity of their city. It was a sacred duty, a transaction with the divine to maintain order in the world. The temple, therefore, became a physical manifestation of this cosmic pact, built upon a foundation of life given to the gods. Today, as we stand here, we are looking at two stories simultaneously. The first is the story told on the outside, a beautiful monument to Kits. The second is the hidden story, the one buried beneath our feet, a grim testament to the hundreds of lives sacrificed to sanctify this very ground. This duality is what makes the Temple of the Feathered Serpent so profoundly compelling. It reminds us that ancient religions and societies were complex, filled with both breathtaking beauty and brutal realities. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and understand the deep, often unsettling, beliefs that motivated the people who built this incredible city. This temple is not just a building. It's a history book written in stone and bone, telling the epic and often terrifying story of Teotihuacan. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of Teotihuacan's greatest secrets. The stories this city has to tell are far from over. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world's most incredible ancient sites. Don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the mysteries of ancient civilizations. Today, we're re-stepping onto what is perhaps the most iconic thoroughfare of the pre-Columbian Americas, Teotihuacan, Avenue of the Dead. Now, the name sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? It was actually given by the Aztecs, who found this city centuries after it was abandoned. They believed the massive structures lining this road were tombs for kings and gods, hence the Avenue of the Dead. But the original inhabitants, whose name for this grand street is lost to time, likely saw it as the vibrant heart of their universe. Imagine standing here, nearly 2,000 years ago. This isn't a silent, empty path. It's the central artery of a bustling metropolis, one of the largest cities in the world at its peak, stretching for over 2.5 miles. It wasn't just a road, it was the stage upon which the life of Teotihuacan unfolded. It connected the city's most sacred monuments from the Pyramid of the Moon at its northern end, all the way past the colossal Pyramid of the Sun to the Citadel and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent in the south. The avenue isn't perfectly straight or flat. It's a masterpiece of urban planning. It follows the natural contours of the valley, but is engineered with incredible precision. Notice how it rises and falls in a series of wide, terraced platforms. This wasn't just for drainage. It created a dramatic, almost theatrical, approach to the major pyramids. As you walked north, the Pyramid of the Moon would appear and disappear, growing larger and more imposing with each rise. A clever trick of forced perspective designed to inspire awe and reverence. Let's picture the scene. The air is thick with the scent of copal incense burning in ceremonial braziers, mixed with the earthy smell of corn tortillas cooking in the nearby residential compounds. The sounds are a symphony of the city. The distant rhythm of drums from a temple ceremony. The chatter of merchants hawking their wares, obsidian blades from one stall, vibrant textiles from another, exotic bird feathers from the Gulf Coast. Priests in elaborate headdresses and costumes would lead processions down this very avenue, their chants echoing off the stone facades. It was a sensory overload, a place of immense energy. The structures lining the avenue are just as fascinating as the road itself. These weren't just random buildings. Archaeologists call them temple palace complexes. On the surface, they appear as large, tablero-style platforms, typical of Teotihuacan architecture. But when you excavate them, you find they were multifunctional. Some were likely the residences of the city's elite high-ranking priests or nobles. These compounds were intricate, with multiple rooms, courtyards, and patios, many decorated with stunning murals depicting jaguars, coyotes, and complex deities. Think of these complexes as a blend of a cathedral, a government office, and a luxury apartment building, all rolled into one. Here, the city's leaders would have conducted state business, performed private rituals, and lived their daily lives, all within sight of the city's great pyramids. The very layout of these buildings, with their restricted access and hidden inner courtyards, speaks to a society that was highly organized and stratified. Power and prestige were displayed openly through the scale and decoration of your home along the avenue. But it wasn't just for the rich and powerful. The avenue was a public space, a place for the people. Imagine thousands of citizens gathering here to witness a major religious festival, perhaps the accession of a new ruler, or a ceremony to mark the changing of the seasons. They would line the edges of the avenue, looking up at the processions on the raised platforms, feeling a part of something immense and powerful. This road was the physical and spiritual connector that bound every citizen of Teotihuacan together, from the humble farmer to the most powerful priest. One of the most intriguing aspects is what lies beneath. Excavations have revealed that the Avenue of the Dead was built over an earlier, much older version of the road, and beneath that, a complex system of drains and canals, showing an incredible level of hydraulic engineering. They were managing water for a population of over 100,000 people, a feat that rivals any ancient civilization. They even diverted a river to run perpendicularly across the avenue near the Citadel, a symbolic act of aligning their city with the cosmic order. So, as we walk this ancient path today, let's try to see beyond the stone ruins. Let's see the throngs of people, the vibrant markets, the solemn processions. The Avenue of the Dead wasn't about death at all. It was the epicenter of life. It was the place where commerce, religion, politics, and community all converged. It was the monumental spine of a city that, for centuries, was the center of the Mesoamerican world. Its scale and design continue to astound us, a silent testament to the ambition and ingenuity of its mysterious builders. Thank you for joining me on this walk through history. The story of Teotihuacan is far from over, and every stone here still has secrets to share. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to explore together. Until next time, keep wondering. Welcome back to our series, where we're peeling back the layers of time to explore the incredible city of Today, We're moving past the monumental pyramids and avenues to discover something even more fascinating. The homes of the people. How did the average person, the families, the artisans, and the farmers of this mighty city actually live? Let's find out. For a long time, the sheer scale of the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon captured all the attention. But archaeologists began to wonder, where were the million or so people who supported this metropolis? The answer was hiding in plain sight, in sprawling, single-story structures that we now call apartment compounds. Forget what you think you know about modern apartments. These were something else entirely. Imagine walking through the city grid, away from the central avenue of the dead. You'd find yourself surrounded by massive, windowless stone walls. From the outside, they look like fortresses, imposing and mysterious. These compounds, some as large as a modern city block, could house hundreds of people. They weren't just buildings. They were self-contained neighborhoods, buzzing with life. Each compound had a name given by archaeologists, like Tepentitla, Tetitla, or Zacuala, names that have become synonymous with the vibrant daily life of the city. Let's step inside one of these compounds. You enter through a single, often narrow, doorway. Suddenly, the fortress-like exterior gives way to a complex and beautiful interior. You're not in one big open space, but a maze of interconnected patios, passages, and rooms. The design is ingenious. A series of open-air courtyards, or patios, act as the heart of each section. These weren't just empty spaces. They were the centers of domestic life. Sunlight and fresh air would pour in, and a clever drainage system would collect rainwater. These patios were the living rooms, kitchens, and workshops of Teotihuacan. Here, women would grind maize on stone metates, the rhythmic sound echoing through the courtyard. Children would play, their laughter mixing with the chatter of daily gossip and commerce. Artisans might be seen polishing obsidian into razor-sharp blades, or crafting delicate pottery. It was in these shared spaces that the community came together, forging bonds and navigating the complexities of life. From these central patios, doorways would lead into private rooms. These were the family apartments. While not large by our standards, they were intimate and functional. The walls, made of volcanic stone and rubble, were coated in thick layers of plaster and lime, then polished to a smooth, clean finish. But what truly brings these homes to life is the color. The people of Teotihuacan didn't live in a world of gray stone. They lived in a world of vibrant red. Walls were often painted with a deep, rich, hematite red, creating a warm and surprisingly bright interior. This wasn't just decoration, it was a fundamental part of their world. This red plaster wasn't confined to the walls. Floors were often treated with it as well, creating a seamless, colorful living space. It's hard to overstate how different this feels from the stone ruins we see today. You have to imagine a city glowing with this earthy, powerful color. But the artistry didn't stop at solid red. This is where Teotihuacan reveals its soul. Within these compounds, archaeologists have uncovered some of the most breathtaking murals of the ancient Americas, in more elaborate apartments, perhaps belonging to priests or high-status families. The walls became canvases for complex stories. We see deities with goggled eyes and feathered headdresses, processions of priests scattering seeds or incense, and powerful animals like jaguars and eagles, all painted in a distinct, symbolic style. One of the most famous murals found in the Tepentitla compound is the Paradise of Tlaloc. It's an incredible scene, teeming with life. It shows a lush, watery afterlife where dozens of small figures are playing, swimming, chasing butterflies, and singing with speech scrolls coming from their mouths. It's a joyful, energetic depiction of the afterlife, a stark contrast to the solemnity of the pyramids. These murals weren't just pretty pictures. They were teaching tools, religious texts, and a constant reminder of the cosmic order that governed their lives, even in more common homes. The art was present. While they might not have a full-blown mural, they would often have stenciled designs, geometric patterns, or symbolic flowers painted on the walls. It shows that art and spirituality were not just for the elite. They were woven into the fabric of everyone's home. Every apartment unit, or cluster of rooms, also had its own small personal altar. This might be a small platform in a corner or a dedicated niche in the wall. Here, families would leave offerings, perhaps a small ceramic figurine, a bit of food, or incense. This tells us that religious practice was deeply personal and happened right within the home, connecting the family's daily rituals to the grand ceremonies happening at the city's great pyramids. It was a way of making the cosmic personal and the personal cosmic. So, what was a day like for a family here? You would wake in your plaster-lined room, perhaps on a woven mat. You'd join others in the patio, where the morning meal was being prepared over a fire. The day's work would depend on your family's trade. If you were a feather worker, you might spend your day meticulously arranging iridescent quetzal feathers. If you were a potter, you'd be shaping clay and tending the kiln. Farmers would head out to the fields surrounding the city. The compound was a hub of economic activity. Evidence suggests that many compounds specialized in a particular craft. One might be a center for obsidian tool production, another for ceramics. This means your neighbors were also your colleagues. You lived and worked in the same space, creating a tight-knit community of specialists. It was a city of neighborhoods, each with its own identity and contribution to the greater whole. At the end of the day, families would gather again in the courtyards, sharing stories and food under the stars. The design of the compounds, with their inward focus, fostered a deep sense of community and perhaps safety. While life was undoubtedly hard, these homes provided a stable, organized, and remarkably beautiful environment. They were more than just shelter. They were living expressions of Teotihuacan society, ordered, communal, and deeply connected to the spiritual world. When we look at the ruins of Teotihuacan's apartment compounds, we are looking at the foundation of the city. These homes, with their painted walls, shared courtyards, and private altars, show us a society that valued community, artistry, and faith in equal measure. They reveal that the true power of Teotihuacan wasn't just in its monumental pyramids, but in the millions of ordinary people living extraordinary lives within these vibrant, red-walled worlds. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the homes of Teotihuacan. It's truly amazing what we can learn from the places people once called home. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into ancient worlds. Let me know in the comments what aspect of daily life you found most surprising. Until next time, stay curious. Imagine walking through a city, not of gray stone and concrete, but of vibrant, living color. A city where every wall, every palace, every temple pulsed with brilliant reds, sun-drenched yellows, and deep, earthy tones. This wasn't a dream. This was Teotihuacan, the city of the gods. Today, we're journeying back in time to explore the breathtaking art and color that defined this ancient metropolis. When we think of ancient ruins, we often picture weathered, monochrome stone. But Teotihuacan was an explosion of color. Its architects and artists didn't just build structures, they painted a world. Using pigments mined from the earth and surrounding volcanic landscapes, they transformed plaster and stone into a sprawling canvas. Cinnabar provided a powerful, sacred red, while ochre and hematite offered a rich palette of yellows, oranges, and browns. These weren't just decorative choices, they were statements of power, spirituality, and cosmic belief. The entire city, from the Grand Avenue of the Dead to the most private residential compounds, was enveloped in these stunning hues, creating an immersive, almost otherworldly experience for its inhabitants. Now, let's talk about what they painted. The murals of Teotihuacan are a window into the soul of its people. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were complex narratives, religious texts, and maps of the cosmos, all rendered in a unique and highly stylized artistic language. One of the most common motifs you'll find is the procession. Lines of priests, warriors, and deities march across the walls, often carrying ritual objects or scattering seeds in water. These figures are typically shown in profile, with elaborate headdresses and costumes, each detail rich with symbolic meaning. It's like watching a silent, frozen parade that has been marching for nearly 2,000 years. Among the most powerful images are the animals: jaguars, coyotes, and eagles, all apex predators of the Mesoamerican world. are depicted with fierce elegance. But these aren't just wildlife portraits. The jaguar, with its spotted coat, often represented the night sky, shamanic power, and the underworld. The eagle symbolized the sun, the heavens, and military might. You'll often see them depicted with hearts in their mouths, or adorned with feathers, signifying their role in sacrificial and celestial rites. These animals were living embodiments of the natural and supernatural forces that governed the Teotihuacan universe. Then there is the feathered serpent, one of the most enduring and important deities in Mesoamerica, known to the later Aztecs as Teotihuacan. This being is everywhere. The temple of the feathered serpent is adorned with massive, three-dimensional stone carvings of its head, but its image also slithers across countless murals. This divine creature, a blend of snake and bird, represented the union of earth and sky, a bringer of knowledge and a symbol of fertility and creation. Its undulating form, covered in precious green quetzal feathers, was a constant reminder of the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. One of the most fascinating and enigmatic murals is found in the Tepentitla compound, often called the Paradise of Tlaloc. The storm god was a critical deity for an agricultural society, and this mural seems to depict his divine realm. It's a joyful, almost utopian scene. We see a great mountain, a source of life-giving water, with a large deity at its peak. Below, small human figures are shown, swimming, dancing, playing games, and chasing butterflies. It's a vision of an afterlife, a place of eternal spring and abundance. Unlike the more formal and imposing art on the main pyramids, this mural offers a glimpse into the hopes and dreams of the common people. A vision of peace and happiness. The artists of Teotihuacan developed a unique style. It's very geometric and abstract, not focused on creating realistic, individual portraits. Faces are often uniform, like masks, emphasizing the role or archetype of the person rather than their individual identity. Repetition is key. Patterns of waves, feathered eyes, and geometric symbols create a rhythmic, hypnotic effect, drawing the viewer into a meditative state. This wasn't art for art's sake. It was functional. It was designed to convey complex religious and political ideas to a diverse population, to unify the city under a shared cosmology. The clarity and power of this visual language are what made it so effective. So, how were these masterpieces made? The technique was a form of fresco, or painting on wet lime plaster. As the plaster dried, the pigments bonded with the surface, creating an incredibly durable work of art. This is why, despite centuries of abandonment and exposure to the elements, so many fragments of these murals have survived. Archaeologists have painstakingly recovered and pieced together these fragments like a giant, sacred jigsaw puzzle. Each piece, no matter how small, is a whisper from the past, telling a story of the city's former glory. Imagine the effect of this art on a visitor arriving in Teotihuacan for the first time. They would leave the natural landscape and enter a built environment where every surface was a testament to the power of the gods and the state. The vibrant colors and powerful symbols would have been overwhelming, an awe-inspiring display of order, wealth, and spiritual authority. The art of Teotihuacan wasn't just decoration. It was propaganda, education, and sacred text all in one. It was the visual glue that held this massive, complex society together. Today, while the original vibrant colors have faded on the main pyramids, you can still experience their full power in the city's museums and in protected residential compounds like Titutla and Etit. Walking into these spaces is like stepping into another world. The reds are still fiery, the yellows still glow, and the figures on the walls still seem to move with ancient energy. They remind us that this was not a silent, stone-gray city, but a living, breathing, brilliantly colored universe. The art of Teotihuacan is its enduring voice, speaking to us across the centuries about its vision of cosmic order and its place within it. Thank you so much for joining me on this colorful journey into the heart of Teotihuacan. The story of this city is written on its walls, and we've only just begun to read it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and you won't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to shop in an ancient metropolis? Forget your local mall. Let's travel back in time to the bustling heart of Mesoamerica, the great city of Teotihuacan. This wasn't just a city of pyramids. It was a vibrant, sprawling hub of commerce, a place where the pulse of an entire civilization could be felt in its marketplaces. Imagine stepping into the great compound, believed to be the city's central market. The air is thick with a symphony of sounds and smells. You'd hear dozens of languages spoken, a testament to the sheer diversity of people drawn to this economic powerhouse. Merchants from the misty highlands of Guatemala, coastal traders from the Gulf of Mexico, and nomads from the northern deserts all converged here, their voices blending into a lively chorus of negotiation and exchange. What were they all here for? The goods. Teotihuacan's market was a treasure trove of the ancient world. Picture stalls overflowing with precious materials. Shimmering green jade, painstakingly carved into intricate figures and jewelry, would catch your eye. This wasn't just any stone. It was a symbol of life, fertility, and power, sourced from the distant Motagua River Valley. Its presence here tells us about the city's long reach and influence. Beside the jade, you'd find heaps of iridescent feathers from the Quetzal and Macor. They have vibrant colors destined to adorn the headdresses of priests and rulers. These weren't just decorative items. They were symbols of divinity and status, carried hundreds of miles from the lush tropical forests of southern Mesoamerica. The logistics of transporting such delicate items speak volumes about the sophistication of the trade networks. And what's that rich aroma in the air? That's cacao, the food of the gods. The bitter beans, which we now know as the source of chocolate, were so valuable they were used as currency. Imagine buying your daily bread with a handful of cacao beans. They arrived from the hot, humid lowlands, a luxury item that only the elite could afford to enjoy as a frothy, spiced beverage. Let's not forget the shells. Spondylus shells, with their spiny, reddish-pink exterior, were brought all the way from the warm waters of the Pacific and Caribbean coasts. They were considered more precious than gold and were used in sacred rituals. Their journey from the sea to this healed-tattooed city was a monumental undertaking, showcasing the incredible organization of Teotihuacan's traders. But the real engine of Teotihuacan's economy was a volcanic glass. Obsidian. The city controlled some of the most significant obsidian sources in Mesoamerica, particularly the green gold variety from Pachuca. This wasn't just any rock, it was the high-tech material of its day. Teotihuacan artisans were masters of their craft, transforming raw obsidian into razor-sharp blades, spear points, and ceremonial knives. Workshops throughout the city would have been filled with a constant sound of chipping and grinding as craftsmen produced these tools on a massive scale. These weren't just for local use. Teotihuacan's obsidian tools were exported far and wide, becoming the standard for quality across Mesoamerica. Archaeologists have found Teotihuacan obsidian as far south as Costa Rica and as far north as modern-day New Mexico. This trade in obsidian was the backbone of the city's wealth and power. How did all these goods travel? There were no wheels for transport, no beasts of burden like horses or oxen. Everything was carried on the backs of human porters, known as tlamams. These hardy traders traversed a complex network of roads and pathways, a pre-Columbian superhighway system connecting Teotihuacan to every corner of their known world. These trade routes were more than just commercial arteries. They were conduits of culture. As traders moved goods, they also carried ideas, artistic styles, and religious beliefs. The distinctive Teotihuacan architectural style, with its tala tablero design, started appearing in other cities. Pottery styles and religious iconography from Teotihuacan were adopted and adapted by communities hundreds of miles away. The city wasn't just selling products. It was exporting a way of life. The influence of Teotihuacan can be seen most dramatically in the Maya region. At major Maya centers like Tikal in Guatemala, archaeologists have found evidence of a strong Teotihuacan presence. We see Teotihuacan-style architecture, burials with Teotihuacan offerings, and even inscriptions that suggest a political takeover orchestrated by figures from the great city. It seems that Teotihuacan's commercial influence was often backed by military might, establishing a powerful presence that shaped the course of Maya history. This exchange wasn't a one-way street. While Teotihuacan exported its goods and culture, it also absorbed influences from the regions it traded with. The diverse pottery styles found in the city, like thin orange ware from Puebla, or vessels from the Gulf Coast, show that Teotihuacanos had a taste for foreign goods. This cultural and commercial exchange enriched the city, making it a truly cosmopolitan center where the best of Mesoamerica could be found. The market was the heart of this exchange. It was a place of social interaction, a melting pot where different cultures met and mingled. It was here that alliances were forged, news was exchanged, and the economic lifeblood of the empire flowed. The scale of the market and the variety of goods available would have been a clear demonstration of the city's power and prosperity to all who visited. So, when we look at the silent ruins of Teotihuacan today, let us remember that they were once the backdrop for one of the most dynamic commercial centers in the ancient world. The Avenue of the Dead wasn't just a ceremonial path. It was a grand boulevard that led to a world of trade, wealth, and cultural exchange. The story of Teotihuacan is not just written in its pyramids, but in every piece of obsidian, every shard of jade, and every cacao bean that traveled across the ancient landscape to reach its magnificent market. It was a city built on connections, a true crossroads of the Americas. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the ancient world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. We'll see you in the next video. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a profound connection, as if the stars were telling a story? For many ancient civilizations, this wasn't just a feeling. It was the foundation of their entire worldview. They believed the cosmos was a living, breathing entity, and that their lives on Earth were intimately woven into its grand, celestial tapestry. Welcome to a journey back in time, where we'll explore how ancient peoples saw their cities not just as places to live, but as sacred reflections of the heavens, living maps of the universe itself. Imagine a city where every street, every temple, and every public square was meticulously designed to align with the stars. The layout wasn't for convenience or aesthetics alone. It was a form of prayer, an act of harmonizing the human world with the divine order. The rising of a particular star might signal the perfect time for planting, not just because of the season, but because the cosmos itself was giving its blessing. The city became a microcosm of the macrocosm, a sacred space where heaven and earth met. This wasn't just symbolic, it was functional. By mirroring the perceived order of the universe, they believed they could bring that same harmony, stability, and prosperity into their own society. At the heart of this cosmic connection were rituals. These weren't just empty traditions. They were the very mechanisms for maintaining balance in the universe. Think of it like a cosmic engine that needed regular maintenance. Rituals were the tools and the actions required to keep everything running smoothly. From the grandest public ceremonies led by priest-kings to the simplest daily prayers whispered in a family home, every ritual act reinforced the bond between humanity and the divine. These ceremonies marked the passage of time solstices, equinoxes, and the cycles of the moon, turning the calendar into a sacred script that guided every aspect of life. Among the most powerful and visually stunning of these rituals were fire offerings. Fire was seen as a transformative element, a pure messenger capable of carrying prayers and offerings from the earthly realm directly to the gods in the heavens. Picture a grand altar at the center of a ceremonial plaza, flames leaping towards the twilight sky. Priests, adorned in ceremonial attire, would chant ancient hymns as they offered precious items to the fire. Fragrant resins, sacred herbs, intricately woven textiles, and specially prepared foods. The smoke, carrying the essence of these gifts, would ascend, creating a visible link between the world of mortals and the celestial plane. It was a direct line of communication, a way to nourish the gods and, in turn, receive their blessings of rain, fertility, and protection. The concept of sacrifice was also central to maintaining this cosmic balance. While our modern minds might find this difficult to grasp, for many ancient cultures, sacrifice was the ultimate act of giving back. It was an acknowledgement that everything they had, from the food they ate to life itself, was a gift from the gods. In this worldview, the universe operated on a principle of reciprocity. To take, one must also give. Sacrifices, whether of animals, crops, or in some cultures, even human life, were seen as a necessary repayment of a sacred debt. It was a profound act intended to restore order appease angered deities, or secure favor for a crucial endeavor like a harvest or a battle. It was the most potent way they knew to ensure the continued generosity of the cosmos. This belief that the city mirrored the heavens had a profound impact on the daily lives of its citizens. An astronomer priest wasn't just a scientist. He was a vital navigator for the entire society, interpreting the will of the gods written in the stars. A farmer wasn't just tilling the soil. He was participating in a sacred cycle of death and rebirth that mirrored cosmic patterns. Even a simple artisan, when crafting a pot decorated with celestial symbols, was reinforcing the fundamental truths of their universe. This shared cosmology created a powerful sense of community and purpose. Everyone, from the king to the commoner, understood their role within this grand, interconnected system. They were all participants in the sacred duty of upholding cosmic order. This worldview also helped them make sense of a world that was often unpredictable and dangerous. A sudden drought, a flood, or a disease wasn't a random event. It was a sign of imbalance, a disruption in the harmonious relationship with the cosmos. The response wasn't despair, but action. They would consult the diviners, perform the necessary rituals, and make the required offerings to restore the balance. It gave them a sense of agency, a way to actively participate in their own destiny by working with, not against, the powerful forces of the universe. Their religion wasn't just about belief. It was a practical guide to living, a roadmap for navigating the challenges of existence. As we look at the ruins of these ancient cities, today the precise alignment of Stonehenge, the celestial orientation of the pyramids, or the cosmic layout of Teotihuacan, we are looking at more than just stone and dust. We are seeing the physical remnants of a profound idea, that we are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it. These cultures built their world around this connection, making their entire civilization a testament to their place among the stars. They lived in a world where every sunrise was a divine promise renewed, and every constellation a chapter in a sacred story they were a part of. So, the next time you find yourself gazing at the night sky, take a moment to think about these ancient city buildings. Consider the possibility that the universe isn't just a collection of distant, fiery balls of gas, but a grand, interconnected whole. Perhaps, in their own way, they understood something fundamental that we are only just beginning to rediscover. That our own world is a reflection of the cosmos, and our lives are part of its eternal, magnificent dance. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through religion and the cosmos. If you found this exploration fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the past. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. We'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome, Bike History Detectives, to our deep dive into one of the most enigmatic civilizations ever known. Today, we're tackling a massive question in Chapter 13. Who was actually in charge? We've explored their incredible city planning, their advanced sanitation, and their intricate trade networks. But when we look for the rulers, the kings, the queens, we find a stunning void. Think about other great ancient empires. Egypt had its pharaohs, entombed in colossal pyramids. Rome had its emperors, living in lavish palaces. Mesopotamia had its kings, immortalized in grand statues and inscriptions. These societies made sure we knew who was at the top. But here, in this sprawling, sophisticated metropolis, there are no obvious palaces, no grand, opulent royal tombs overflowing with gold, no larger-than-life statues of a supreme leader. It's a historical head-scratcher. So, where did the power lie? This absence of ostentatious leadership has led to some fascinating theories. Was this a society governed not by a single monarch, but by a collective? A council of elders, perhaps, or maybe a group of prominent merchants who controlled the city's economic lifeblood? It's an intriguing idea. A city run like an ancient corporation, where influence was wielded in boardrooms rather than throne rooms. The wealth was clearly there, but it seems it wasn't concentrated in the hands of one single, all-powerful individual. This suggests a more distributed, perhaps even more egalitarian, power structure than we're used to seeing in the ancient world. But there's another compelling theory, one that points towards a different kind of power: spiritual authority. Throughout the city, we find evidence of ritual and ceremony. The Great Bath, for example, wasn't just for hygiene. Most scholars agree it played a central role in public religious rites. We find countless seals depicting divine or semi-divine figures and terracotta figurines that likely represent Mother Goddess. This strong religious undercurrent has led many experts to believe that the true rulers were not kings, but councils of priests. Imagine a society where the ultimate authority came from divine mandate, interpreted and administered by a priestly class. In this scenario, power wouldn't be displayed through worldly riches like palaces and gold, but through the control of sacred rituals and knowledge. The leaders would have been hidden in plain sight, their influence woven into the very spiritual fabric of the city. Their palaces would have been the temples, and their thrones the ceremonial platforms where they connected the people with the gods. This would explain why the city's most impressive structures seem to be public and ceremonial rather than private and residential. The power was institutional, not personal. This priest-king theory gains more traction when we look at the uniformity of the culture across a vast area, the standardized weights and measures, the consistent brick sizes, the similar city layouts over hundreds of miles. That this all points to a strong, centralized authority, a religious ideology, enforced by a disciplined priestly order. Could be the perfect mechanism for maintaining such incredible consistency without the need for a visible, military-backed monarch. They would rule through belief, not brute force. Their decrees would be divine law. Their guidance essential for ensuring the favor of the gods and the prosperity of the city. However, the debate is far from settled. Some archaeologists push back, arguing we simply haven't found the palaces yet. They might have been built of wood and other perishable materials that have long since vanished. Unlike the baked brick of other structures, or perhaps our definition of a palace is too narrow. Maybe the larger residential compounds we've unearthed, which housed multiple families and had private wells and courtyards, belonged to influential clans or guild leaders who collectively managed the city's affairs. In this view, governance was a decentralized affair, a collaboration between powerful families who controlled different sectors of the economy, like pottery, bead-making, or metallurgy. Let's consider the famous priest-king statue itself. It's a small but powerful sculpture of a bearded man with a serene expression, wearing an ornate headband and a patterned robe. For a long time, this was our best candidate for a portrait of a ruler. But is he a king, a priest? Or is he just a depiction of an elite member of society, a respected elder or a clan leader? The statue is iconic, but it's also ambiguous. It doesn't have the clear symbols of kingship we see elsewhere. It lacks the scale and grandeur we'd associate with an absolute monarch. This single artifact perfectly encapsulates our central mystery. It hints at elite status, but it refuses to give up its secrets about the nature of that power. So we're left with a fascinating puzzle. On one hand, the lack of palaces and royal tombs suggests a society that rejected or simply didn't practice the kind of monarchical rule common in the ancient world. This opens the door to theories of rule by committee, be it priests, merchants, or clan elders. It paints a picture of a more complex, perhaps more communal, form of governance. On the other hand, the sheer scale and organization of the civilization demand a strong, centralizing force. Could such a vast and orderly society truly function without a single figure at the top? The truth is, this ambiguity is what makes this civilization so captivating. It challenges our assumptions about power and society. It forces us to consider that there are other ways to build a great civilization, paths that don't involve god-kings and monumental tombs. The elite were clearly there, their existence proven by the fine goods, the larger homes, and the administrative seals. But they were a hidden elite, their power veiled in mystery. Perhaps their greatest strength was their ability to lead without leaving a grandiose personal footprint, focusing instead on the collective well-being and stability of their incredible city. What do you think? Were they ruled by wise priests, shrewd merchants, or a king whose palace is still waiting to be discovered? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This is a mystery we're all trying to solve together. Thank you so much for joining me on this archaeological journey. If you enjoyed unraveling this ancient puzzle, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to explore. Until next time, stay curious. Imagine stepping back in time, nearly 2,000 years ago, to a bustling metropolis in the heart of ancient Mexico. This isn't just any city. This is Teotihuacan, the city of the gods. And at the very core of its immense power and wealth lies a material as beautiful as it is deadly: obsidian. This volcanic glass, shimmering like captured night, was the lifeblood of Teotihuacan, its black gold. Today, we're embarking on a journey to uncover the secrets of this remarkable substance. We'll explore how Teotihuacan harnessed the power of obsidian, transforming it from raw stone into the tools, weapons, and sacred objects that defined an empire. This isn't just a story about a rock. It's a story about innovation, economy, and belief, all forged in the heart of a volcano. So, where did all this obsidian come from? The primary source was a place called Pachuca, a region blessed with some of the finest, most sought-after obsidian in all of Mesoamerica. Imagine vast quarries, echoing with the sound of stone striking stone, as skilled workers extracted massive chunks of this precious glass from the earth. Pachuca obsidian was special. It had a unique greenish tint and a translucency that made it instantly recognizable and highly prized. It was the signature brand of Teotihuacan, a symbol of quality and power known throughout the ancient world. Getting these huge obsidian cores from the Pachuca quarries back to the city, a journey of about 50 kilometers, was a monumental task, without draft animals like horses or oxen, and without the wheel for transport. This was all done through sheer human effort. Picture long lines of porters, strong and resilient, carrying heavy loads of obsidian on their backs using tumplin straps worn across the forehead to support the weight. It was a slow, arduous process that demonstrated the incredible organization and determination of the Teotihuacano people. The city's demand for obsidian was insatiable, and this human supply chain was the artery that pumped life into its workshops. Once the obsidian arrived in Teotihuacan, it entered a world of specialized craftsmanship. Unlike any other, the city wasn't just a consumer of obsidian, it was the master of its production. Archaeologists have discovered entire neighborhoods, vast workshop complexes, dedicated solely to working this material. You could walk through these areas and see every stage of the process. In one corner, craftsmen would be breaking down the large cores into more manageable pieces. In another, highly skilled artisans, known as knappers, would be performing their magic. These knappers were the true masters. Using techniques passed down through generations, they could shape obsidian with astonishing precision. One of the most important techniques was pressure flaking. Using a tool made of bone or antler, a knapper would apply precise pressure to the edge of an obsidian core. With a subtle push and a soft pop, a long razor-sharp blade would peel away. These were called prismatic blades. They were incredibly thin, sharper than a modern surgical scalpel, and could be mass-produced by the thousands. It was an ancient form of industrial manufacturing, and Teotihuacan was its undisputed center. So, what were all these obsidian objects used for? Let's start with the everyday. For the common person in Teotihuacan, obsidian was the key to daily life. Those razor-sharp prismatic blades we just talked about, they were the utility knives of the ancient world. People used them for everything from preparing food and cutting textiles to crafting wooden tools, and even for personal grooming, like shaving. Arrowheads and spear points made of obsidian were essential for hunting, providing food for the city's massive population. In a world without metal tools for the general populace, obsidian was the indispensable material that made life possible. But obsidian's role went far beyond the household. It was the foundation of Teotihuacan's military might. The armies of Teotihuacan were equipped with fearsome weapons edged with this volcanic glass. Imagine spears and darts, tipped with wickedly sharp obsidian points. A particularly formidable weapon was the atlatl, or a spear thrower, which could launch these darts with incredible force and accuracy. And then there were the macuehuita-like clubs, wooden weapons studded with obsidian blades, capable of inflicting horrific wounds. When Teotihuacan's armies marched, their obsidian weapons weren't just functional. They were a terrifying symbol of the city's power, gleaming menacingly in the sun. Obsidian wasn't just a tool for survival and conquest. It was also a currency of power and a symbol of status. Control over the Pachuca quarries and the production workshops gave the rulers of Teotihuacan a virtual monopoly on the finest obsidian. In Mesoamerica, this control was the engine of their economy. Teotihuacan exported finished obsidian goods blades, projectile points, and other tools far and wide. These items have been found in archaeological sites hundreds of miles away, from the Maya lands in the south to the coastal regions in the north. This trade network brought immense wealth and influence back to the city, allowing it to grow and dominate the region for centuries. An obsidian blade from Teotihuacan wasn't just a tool. It was a luxury good, a status symbol that connected distant peoples to the heart of the empire. Perhaps the most fascinating use of obsidian was in the realm of the sacred. For the people of Teotihuacan, this black, reflective glass was not an ordinary material. It was imbued with spiritual power. Its reflective surface was seen as a portal, a scrying mirror to communicate with ancestors and deities, and to peer into the supernatural world. Priests would use polished obsidian mirrors for divination rituals, seeking guidance from the gods. Obsidian was also a key component in sacrificial ceremonies, its razor-sharp edge believed to be the only thing pure enough to perform sacred offerings. It was used to craft exquisite ritual objects, intricate figurines, and ceremonial knives, often inlaid into masks or buried with the elite as offerings to the gods. In the spiritual landscape of Teotihuacan, obsidian was the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, a substance born from the fiery underworld of volcanoes that held the key to the heavens. So, what happened to this great obsidian industry? Like all great empires, Teotihuacan eventually declined. Around 550 AD, the central parts of the city were systematically burned and abandoned. While the exact reasons are still debated by scholars, it could have been internal strife, an uprising, or environmental pressures. The fall of the city's central power meant the collapse of its vast production and trade network. The obsidian workshops fell silent. The flow of raw material from Pachuca ceased. The intricate web of commerce that had been centered on Teotihuacan unraveled. While other cultures continued to use obsidian, none would ever replicate the sheer scale and centralized control that Teotihuacan had achieved. The age of obsidian masters was over. Today, as we walk among the silent ruins of Teotihuacan, from the Avenue of the Dead to the great pyramids of the sun and moon, it's easy to be overwhelmed by the monumental stone architecture. But look closer. Under your feet, glittering in the soil, you can still find tiny fragments of obsidian, the remnants of this once thriving industry. Each shimmering piece is a tangible link to the past, a tiny shard of the story of Teotihuacan's power. They remind us that the strength of this great city was not just in its massive pyramids, but also in its mastery of this beautiful and powerful black glass. The power of obsidian may have faded, but its legacy is etched forever into the story of this incredible ancient city. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the world of Teotihuacan's obsidian. It's a subject that shows how a single natural resource can shape a civilization's destiny. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of the ancient world. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Hello history lovers, and welcome back to our journey through the annals of time. Today, we're venturing into the heart of ancient Mesoamerica to uncover the secrets of a city so magnificent, so powerful, that its name still echoes with mystery and awe. Teotihuacan. This isn't just a story about ruins. It's the story of an empire whose influence shaped a continent. Imagine a city sprawling across the Mexican highlands, home to over 100,000 people at its peak. This was Teotihuacan, one of the largest and most sophisticated cities on the planet during its heyday. From roughly 100 BC to 550 AD, its grid-like layout was a marvel of urban planning, centered around a grand thoroughfare known as the Avenue of the Dead. This monumental axis, nearly 2 miles long, connects the city's most sacred and impressive structures. The Pyramid of the Moon at one end, the Citadel and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent at the other, and the colossal Pyramid of the Sun dominating the landscape in between. Let's talk scale. The Pyramid of the Sun is simply staggering. It's the third largest pyramid in the world, built from over 2.5 million tons of stone and earth, all moved without the help of wheels or metal tools. Standing atop this massive structure, you would have seen a bustling metropolis, a vibrant mosaic of apartment compounds, workshops, and markets. This was the epicenter of a civilization that was, in many ways, far ahead of its time. But Teotihuacan was more than just a massive city. It was the heart of a sprawling empire, Its power and influence didn't stop at its city limits. This is where the story gets truly fascinating. The empire was unnecessarily built on military conquest in the way we might think of the Romans or the Aztecs who came later. Instead, Teotihuacan's dominance was a complex web of trade, cultural exchange, and likely religious authority. Evidence of Teotihuacan's reach is found hundreds of miles away. Archaeologists have unearthed Teotihuacan-style pottery, obsidian tools, and architectural motifs in regions all across Mesoamerica. From the Zapotic capital of Monte Alban in Oaxaca to the lush lowlands of the Gulf Coast, the mark of Teotihuacan is unmistakable. The city controlled the most valuable resource of the time. Obsidian, this volcanic glass, was the key material for creating razor-sharp tools and weapons, giving Teotihuacan immense economic leverage. Its green obsidian, sourced from nearby Pachuca, was a signature export, a clear sign of its trade network. Perhaps the most compelling evidence of its influence comes from the Maya world, far to the southeast in modern-day Guatemala and Mexico. In the great Maya city of Tikal, a pivotal event occurred in the year 378 AD. Steely carved stone monuments record the arrival of a figure named Siachcake, or Fire is Born, who came from the west. On the very same day, Tikal's king mysteriously died. A new dynasty, with clear ties to Teotihuacan, was installed. We see depictions of Teotihuacano warriors with their distinctive goggle-eyed storm god Tlaloc and spear throwers appearing in Maya art. Was this a military takeover, a political alliance sealed by marriage, or a form of religious conversion where Maya rulers adopted the powerful symbolism and divine authority of Teotihuacan to legitimize their own power? The truth is likely a combination of all three. Emissaries from Teotihuacan, depicted in murals and on pottery in these distant lands, weren't just traders. They were ambassadors of a powerful ideology. They brought with them not just goods, but a worldview, a cosmology, and a pantheon of gods that other cultures found compelling and advantageous to adopt. The art and religion of Teotihuacan were central to its identity. Unlike the Maya, who covered their monuments with hieroglyphic texts detailing the lives of their rulers, Teotihuacan's public art is largely anonymous and abstract. It focuses on gods, like the great goddess, often depicted as a spider or with a fanged mask, and the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, a deity that would become central to many later Mesoamerican cultures. This focus on deities rather than individual kings suggests a different kind of government, perhaps one ruled by a council or a collective of elites, whose power was rooted in religious stewardship rather than personal glory. This collective identity is also reflected in the city's living arrangements. Most citizens lived in large, multi-family apartment compounds. These were not simple dwellings. They were elaborate, walled complexes with courtyards, temples, and brightly painted murals, suggesting that social life was organized around kin groups or professional guilds. This communal structure stands in stark contrast to the palaces of individual kings we see elsewhere. But every great empire eventually falls, and the story of Teotihuacan's decline is as mysterious as its rise. Around 550 AD, the city experienced a catastrophic collapse. The ceremonial heart of Teotihuacan was systematically burned. Temples and palaces along the Avenue of the Dead were looted and set ablaze. But this wasn't an attack from an outside enemy. The destruction was precise, targeting only the ritual and administrative buildings. The residential compounds were largely untouched. This suggests an internal conflict, a violent uprising. Perhaps the city's diverse population revolted against the ruling elite. Maybe environmental factors, like prolonged drought, led to famine and social unrest, causing the system to break down from within. Some scholars argue that the disruption of its long-distance trade routes weakened the elite's authority, making them vulnerable to a popular rebellion. Whatever the cause, the central authority of Teotihuacan vanished. The city wasn't completely abandoned, but it dwindled into a shadow of its former self. Yet, the legacy of Teotihuacan endured for centuries. Its influence was so profound that when the Aztecs arrived in the Valley of Mexico nearly 800 years later, they found the colossal ruins and believed it was a mythical place where the gods had created the universe. In fact, it was the Aztecs who gave the city its name. Teotihuacan which in their Nahuatl language means the place where the gods were made. They revered the site, incorporated its deities into their own pantheon, and saw themselves as the heirs to its grand tradition. So, while the empire of Teotihuacan may have crumbled, its cultural and religious DNA became embedded in the very fabric of Mesoamerica. Its innovations in art, architecture, and urban planning set a standard for centuries to come. The city stands as a powerful testament to a civilization that, for a time, was the undisputed center of its world, a place of gods, of power, and of enduring mystery. Its story reminds us that an empire's strength isn't just in its walls or its armies, but in the power of its ideas to shape the world long after its gates have closed. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the incredible Teotihuacan Empire. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was it an internal revolt or something else that brought down this mighty city? Until next time, stay curious. Have you ever wondered what the past actually felt? Beyond the grand tales of kings and empires, what was the rhythm of daily life for the everyday person? Today, let's step back in time. Not to a battlefield or a royal court, but into the bustling streets and quiet fields where history was truly lived. Let's explore the world of the craftsman, the farmer, and the merchant, the very heartbeat of their society. Imagine waking up not to an alarm clock, but to the first rays of sunlight filtering through a simple window, accompanied by the distant crow of a rooster. This was the start of the day for the farmer, a life dictated by the seasons and the sun. Before the day grew too hot, they would already be in the fields. Picture the rhythmic swing of a scythe through golden wheat, the steady, earthy sound of a hoe turning soil, or the gentle rustle of leaves as they tended to their crops. This wasn't just labor. It was a conversation with the land. They knew the soil like the back of their hand, where it was fertile, where it needed rest. They understood the language of the clouds, predicting rain with a glance at the sky. Their children would work alongside them, learning these ancient skills not from books, but through practice, their small hands pulling weeds or scattering seeds. Lunch wasn't a quick bite. It was a communal pause under the shade of a large tree, sharing bread, cheese, and perhaps some fruit, the food they had grown themselves. Their work was physically demanding, but it was honest. Every drop of sweat was an investment in their family's survival, a direct connection between their effort and the food on their table. Their world was one of cycles, the cycle of the sun, the moon, and the seasons, a continuous dance of planting, growing, and harvesting. Now, let's leave the quiet fields and walk towards the town. As we get closer, the air changes. The scent of damp earth is replaced by the smell of wood smoke, baking bread, and something else, the sharp, metallic tanga of a blacksmith's forge. We've entered the world of the craftsman. This is a world of incredible skill, passed down from master to apprentice, generation after generation. Listen, can you hear it? That's the clang 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 of a hammer striking an anvil, shaping a glowing piece of iron into a horseshoe or a sturdy gate hinge. Each strike is precise, a testament to years of practice. The blacksmith, his face smudged with soot and brow glistening with sweat, is an artist of fire and metal. He doesn't just make tools. He creates the very objects that hold the community together. Wander down the narrow lane. The rhythmic hammering gives way to a softer sound, the gentle tap-tap-tapping of a cobbler's hammer on leather, the whisper of a needle pulling thread. In his small workshop, surrounded by the rich scent of cured hides, he meticulously crafts shoes that will walk miles of dusty roads. He knows his customers by name, knows the shape of their feet, and takes pride in creating something that is both beautiful and durable. Further on, the air fills with the sweet scent of sawdust. Here, a carpenter planes a long plank of wood, the shavings curling up like delicate ribbons. He's not just cutting wood. He's reading its grain, understanding its strengths and weaknesses. He might be building a sturdy chair, a cradle for a newborn, or an ornate chest for a wealthy patron. His hands, calloused and strong, move with a practiced grace, transforming a rough log into an object of utility and art. From the weaver at their loom, creating intricate patterns, thread by thread, to the potter at their wheel, coaxing a lump of clay into a graceful pot. The world of the craftsman was a symphony of specialized sounds and smells, each contributing to the vibrant life of the town. Now, let's push through the crowds into the heart of the city. The marketplace. This is where all the threads of daily life intertwine. It's a sensory explosion. The hum of 1,000 conversations. The boisterous calls of vendors advertising their wares. The laughter of children. The bleating of sheep. And the clucking of chickens. The air is thick with a dizzying array of smells. Exotic spices piled high in colorful pyramids, fragrant incense. Burning at a small shrine, the savory aroma of street food cooking over an open fire, and the sweet scent of fresh flowers and ripe fruit. Here, the farmer who woke at dawn now stands proudly behind a stall laden with his harvest-plump vegetables, golden grains, and fresh eggs. He barters with a city dweller, their hands meeting as coins are exchanged for produce. Nearby, the blacksmith's ironwork is on display, while the potter's gleaming jars and bowls attract the eye of a passing homemaker. And at the center of it all is the merchant. The merchant is a master of logistics, a weaver of networks. They might be a local shopkeeper, their small store crammed with goods from the surrounding region, or a long-distance trader, their stall filled with wonders from faraway land, silk from the east, salt from distant mines, wine from a sun-drenched coast. They are storytellers, adventurers, and risk. They connect this single marketplace to the wider world, tear caravans, and ships, the arteries through which flow not just goods, but ideas, cultures, and news. A conversation with a merchant could bring you tales of desert landscapes, bustling foreign ports, and different ways of life. In the midst of this organized chaos, life unfolds. People don't just shop here. They connect. They exchange gossip, share news, arrange marriages, and forge friendships. A deal is sealed with a handshake. A dispute is settled with a public debate. It's a living, breathing organism. A place where the individual efforts of the farmer and craftsman come together to create a community. The sound of corn being ground into flour at a communal mill. The pervasive, calming scent of incense from a temple corner. The constant hum of humanity. These are the sensory anchors of their world. So as we step back from this journey, what do we see? We see a world that is deeply interconnected. The farmer depends on the blacksmith for his tools. The craftsman depends on the farmer for his food. And both depend on the merchant to bring them what they cannot produce themselves and to carry their goods to a wider audience. Their lives were not easy, but they were filled with purpose, skill, and a profound sense of community. The rhythm of their days, from the rising of the sun to the gathering at the market, was the true, enduring pulse of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this quiet reflection. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories about the fabric of daily life. We'd love to have you with us. See you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through history. Today, we stand at a precipice, a turning point where the vibrant pulse of a great civilization begins to fade. We've explored its golden age, its towering temples, and its bustling city life. But now, we enter chapter 17. Signs of decline. Imagine a city that for centuries had been a beacon of order, innovation, and spiritual devotion. Its streets, once meticulously planned and teeming with life, now tell a different story. Around the year 600 CE, a shadow began to fall. The air, once filled with the sounds of commerce and ceremony, started to carry the scent of smoke and fear. What happened? The archaeological record gives us chilling clues. We see evidence of fires, not accidental sparks, but deliberate, destructive blazes that scarred the sacred temples. These weren't just buildings burning. They were the very heart of the society being destroyed. The intricate carvings on stone walls, which told stories of gods and kings, were blackened by soot. The grand plazas, where thousands had gathered in celebration, fell eerily quiet. This wasn't a slow, gentle decay. It was a fracture. The complex social structure, the very glue that held the city together, began to break down. The orderly system of governance, which had managed everything from trade to religious rituals, lost its grip. Authority evaporated. We see it in the abandonment of grand construction projects, left unfinished as if the builders simply dropped their tools and walked away. We see it in the hastily erected, crude fortifications around certain parts of the city, signs of internal conflict and a desperate need for defense. The city was turning on itself. The question that has haunted historians and archaeologists for generations is, why? There is no single, easy answer, but a web of interconnected theories. One compelling theory points to internal revolt. Picture the vast majority of the population farmers, laborers, and artisans, toiling to support a small, elite ruling class of priests and nobles. For centuries, this system was maintained by faith and tradition. But what if that faith, or perhaps a series of failed prophecies, or the increasing demands of the elite, pushed the common people to their breaking point? The fires that ravaged the temples might have been an act of rebellion, a symbolic and violent rejection of the gods and the rulers who claimed to speak for them. It is a powerful image, the oppressed rising up and tearing down the symbols of their subjugation. Another theory, equally plausible, looks to the environment. This was a civilization deeply dependent on agriculture, particularly the cultivation of maize. Their entire society was built on the promise of a reliable harvest. But what if the rains stopped coming? Tree ring data and sediment analyses from nearby lakes suggest that this period coincided with a series of prolonged, severe droughts. Famine would have been catastrophic. A starving population is a desperate population. Food shortages would lead to social unrest, disease, and a loss of faith in rulers who could no longer guarantee prosperity. The gods of rain seem to have abandoned them, and so the people abandoned their cities in search of survival. It's also possible these two factors were intertwined. A prolonged drought would have weakened the authority of the ruling class, making them vulnerable to an uprising. A revolt would have disrupted food production and distribution, worsening the effects of a famine. It's a feedback loop of disaster, where one crisis feeds another, accelerating the collapse. We also see evidence of increased warfare, not just from outside enemies, but between neighboring city-states that were once allies. As resources like water and fertile land became scarcer, competition would have intensified, turning friendly neighbors into bitter rivals. The delicate balance of power that had maintained regional peace for centuries shattered into 1,000 pieces. As we sift through the ruins, we find personal stories of this decline. Skeletons from this era show signs of malnutrition and disease, a stark contrast to the healthier remains from the city's peak. The exquisite pottery and art that defined the classic period are replaced by cruder, more utilitarian items. The luxury goods that once flowed through vast trade networks disappear. The world, for the people living through this, was shrinking and becoming harsher. And then, the silence. The city, which once housed tens of thousands of people, began to empty. It wasn't a single, dramatic exodus, but a gradual bleeding out. Family by family, they packed what little they could carry and left the stone monuments of their ancestors behind, seeking a new life elsewhere in the jungle. The causeways grew quiet, the markets fell empty, and the Great Pyramids were slowly reclaimed by nature. The jungle, which had been pushed back for centuries by human hands, began to creep back in, its vines and roots wrapping around the silent stones. The silence that fell over these cities around 600 CE is one of history's most profound mysteries. It's a story of how even the most complex and brilliant societies are fragile, vulnerable to changes in climate, social tensions, and the delicate balance of faith and power. The stones that remain are not just ruins. They are a warning, a lesson written in the language of collapse. They remind us that nothing is permanent, and that the signs of decline often appear long before the final fall. Thank you so much for joining me on this sobering exploration. The story doesn't end here, of course, as the descendants of this great civilization live on today. If you found this chapter of our story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of the past. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think was the main cause of the decline? Until next time, stay curious. Imagine a city, once teeming with 250,000 souls, suddenly falling silent. A place where the whispers of gods once echoed through grand avenues. Now only the wind answers. This is the story of Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, and its haunting final chapter. abandonment, and silence. By the year 750 CE, a profound emptiness had descended upon this once mighty metropolis. The sprawling plazas, where vibrant markets once buzzed with traders from across Mesoamerica, were now barren. The grand apartment compounds, homes to generations of artisans, priests, and warriors, stood empty, their colorful murals fading under the relentless sun. The great pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, which once served as the heart of a powerful empire, now stood as solitary monuments under the vast, star-dusted sky. The city was reclaimed by wind and dust, a haunting end to a civilization's dream. What a pet. How could one of the most influential cities in the ancient Americas simply vanish? This is one of history's most compelling mysteries, a puzzle that archaeologists and historians have been trying to piece together for centuries. There was no single, cataclysmic event. Instead, the fall of Teotihuacan was likely a slow, agonizing process, a perfect storm of crises that eroded the very foundations of its society. Let's rewind the clock a bit. In its heyday around 500 CE, Teotihuacan was a beacon of power and culture. Its influence stretched for hundreds of miles. Its obsidian tools, its distinctive pottery, its architectural style all were emulated by neighboring cultures. The city was a cosmopolitan hub, a melting pot of different peoples and ideas, all living under the shadow of its monumental structures. The Avenue of the Dead, the city's main thoroughfare, wasn't a street of sorrow, but a vibrant artery of life, lined with temples and palaces, pulsating with ritual and commerce. Life was dictated by a complex calendar and a powerful ruling class, likely a council of elites rather than a single king, orchestrated the grand ceremonies that appeased the gods and affirmed their divine right to rule. So, what went wrong? The first cracks in this mighty edifice began to appear around the 6th century. Evidence suggests a period of prolonged drought and environmental stress. As a city dependent on agriculture to feed its massive population, a changing climate would have been devastating. Crop failures would lead to famine, and famine would lead to social unrest. The delicate balance that sustained 250,000 people began to wobble. Imagine the growing desperation of farmers as their maize fields withered, the anxiety of families as food stores dwindled. The gods, who were supposed to ensure prosperity, seemed to have turned their backs. This environmental pressure was likely compounded by internal strife. The city was a complex tapestry of different ethnic groups and social classes. As resources became scarcer, tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface probably boiled over. Archaeologists have found evidence of deliberate, selective burning around the city's center, particularly in the palaces and temples along the Avenue of the Dead. This wasn't a foreign invasion. The fires were targeted. It suggests an internal uprising, a violent rebellion of the common people against the ruling elite. Think about it. For centuries, the populace had toiled to build these magnificent pyramids and temples, to sustain a priesthood and nobility living in luxury. When the system failed to provide basic security and sustenance, that social contract was broken. The flames that consumed the sacred precincts were likely flames of rage and frustration. The very symbols of power and religion that once united the city became the targets of its destruction. The people were not just burning buildings. They were burning an ideology, a way of life that had failed them. The collapse wasn't instantaneous. It was a gradual exodus. Family by family, neighborhood by neighborhood, people began to leave. They packed what they could and walked away from the only homes they had ever known, searching for a new beginning. They dispersed across the landscape, taking with them the memory of Teotihuacan, but leaving the city itself to the elements. There was no final, epic battle, no last stand, just a slow, silent emptying. The city wasn't conquered. It was abandoned. By 750 CE, the process was complete. Teotihuacan was a ghost town. The silence on the Avenue of the Dead must have been deafening. The pyramids, which had witnessed centuries of human drama, now presided over an empty stage. Nature began its patient work of reclamation. Weeds pushed through the plaster floors of the great plazas. Trees took root in the walls of the palaces. Animals made their homes in the deserted apartment compounds. The city that was once a marvel of human ingenuity was slowly being swallowed by the earth. Centuries later, another great civilization, the Aztecs, would stumble upon its ruins. They were so awestruck by the scale of what they found that they believed it could not have been built by mortals. They named it Teotihuacan, the place where the gods were created, and incorporated it into their own mythology, seeing it as a sacred, mythical place of origins. They didn't know the true story of the people who had lived and died there. They only saw the silent grandeur, the ghostly echoes of a lost world. The Aztecs would walk the Avenue of the Dead and perform their own rituals there, trying to connect with the divine power they felt still lingered among the ruins. The story of Teotihuacan's abandonment is a powerful cautionary tale. It shows us that even the mightiest civilizations are fragile. It reminds us that societies are complex systems, vulnerable to environmental change, social inequality, and internal conflict. The silence of Teotihuacan is not just an absence of sound, it is filled with questions. It challenges us to look at our own cities, our own societies, and ask if we are learning the lessons left behind in the dust of this great fallen city. When you visit Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan. Standing at the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, looking out over the silent grid of streets and foundations, you can almost hear the echoes of the past. You can imagine the bustling markets, the solemn processions, the final, desperate fires, and the long, slow walk into oblivion. It is a profoundly moving experience, a direct connection to a dream that rose from the earth, touched the heavens, and then, just as mysteriously, returned to silence. The city is no longer deserted, of course. It's filled with visitors like us, all drawn to this enigma, all trying to understand the haunting close to a civilization's dream. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration. What do you think led to the fall of Teotihuacan? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring. Imagine stumbling upon a ghost city, so vast and majestic that you can only conclude it was built by gods. That's exactly what happened to the Aztecs, long after its original inhabitants had vanished. The Aztecs, a nomadic tribe then, journeyed through the Valley of Mexico in the 14th century and came across the sprawling, silent ruins of a magnificent city. They were so awestruck by what they saw at the towering pyramids, the wide, straight avenues, the intricate murals that they couldn't believe mere mortals had created it. They named this incredible place Teot, which in their Nahuatl language means the place where the gods were created. To them, it wasn't just an abandoned settlement. It was the birthplace of the universe itself. The Aztecs didn't know who built Teotihuacan, but they developed their own powerful mythology around it. They believed that this was where the fifth sun, our current era, was born. According to their legends, after the previous world was destroyed, the gods gathered in the darkness at two gods, Nanahuatzin and Texitecatl, sacrificed themselves by leaping into a great fire, transforming into the sun and the moon. This cosmic event, they believed, happened right here, giving birth to the light and time that govern our world. The massive structures became sacred landmarks in this creation story. The largest pyramid was named the Pyramid of the Sun, and the second largest, the Pyramid of the Moon. The long central road became the Avenue of the Dead, because the Aztecs mistakenly thought the smaller platforms lining it were tombs for ancient kings. This rediscovery had a profound impact on Aztec culture and religion. Teotihuacan became one of the most sacred pilgrimage sites in their empire. Aztec rulers would travel there to perform important ceremonies, to connect with the gods, and to legitimize their own power by associating themselves with this divine place. They saw themselves as the rightful heirs to the legacy of Teotihuacan, even though they weren't its builders. They excavated parts of the city, carefully studying its art and architecture. You can see Teotihuacan's influence in Aztec art, pottery, And even in the layout of their own capital, Tenochtitlan, they would find artifacts, like obsidian masks and jade figures, and treat them as sacred relics, burying them as offerings in their own temples, including the Templo Mayor in the heart of their capital. It's fascinating to think about this layering of history. One great civilization builds a city, it falls into ruin, and then centuries later, another powerful civilization rediscovers it and weaves it into the very fabric of their own identity. The Aztecs didn't just find a collection of old buildings. They found a source of divine inspiration and historical authority. They adopted Teotihuacan's gods, or at least blended them with their own. The feathered serpent, a prominent deity at Teotihuacan, became the hugely important god Quetzalcoatl for the Aztecs. They saw the city's creators as legendary ancestors, the Toltecs, who they revered as master craftsmen and wise rulers. By claiming a connection to Teotihuacan, the Aztecs positioned themselves as the inheritors of an ancient, glorious tradition. The Aztecs essentially became the custodians of Teotihuacan's memory. We told them the knowledge and significance of this incredible site might have been lost to time. They conducted rituals, told stories, and made pilgrimages that kept the city's spirit alive. When archaeologists began excavating Teotihuacan in the 20th century, many of the names we still use today, Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon, Avenue of the Dead, came directly from the Aztecs. Their interpretation, though not historically accurate in terms of who built the city, has shaped our modern understanding and perception of it. It is a powerful example of how a place can be reborn through the stories and beliefs of those who come after. The Aztecs saw a divinity in the ruins, and in doing so, they ensured that Teotihuacan would never be truly forgotten. This process of cultural adoption is not unique, but the scale of Teotihuacan makes the Aztec interpretation particularly epic. They weren't just picking up pottery shards. They were integrating an entire cosmic landscape into their worldview. The city's grid-like layout, oriented to celestial events, would have reinforced their belief that this was a place where heaven and earth met. The sheer effort required to build these pyramids without modern technology would have seemed superhuman, logically leading to the conclusion that gods were involved. The Aztecs were practical people, skilled engineers and fierce warriors, but their encounter with Teotihuacan sparked their spiritual imagination. It gave them a tangible link to a mythical past, a foundation upon which they could build their own empire's identity. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they documented many of the Aztec beliefs about Teotihuacan. These accounts, written by figures like Bernardino de Sahagún, are our primary sources for understanding how the Aztecs viewed the ancient city. Through their eyes, we see a place humming with divine energy, a landscape of creation myths. While modern archaeology seeks to uncover the original history of Teotihuacan, who its people were, how they lived, and why they left, the Aztec chapter of its story is just as important. It reveals the enduring power of place and the human need to find meaning in the grand monuments left behind by the past. The Aztecs didn't just find ruins. They found their own Genesis story written in stone. So, when you look at pictures of Teotihuacan today, remember that you're seeing it through multiple lenses. There's the lens of the original, mysterious builders who created this marvel. And then there's the lens of the Aztecs, who rediscovered it and crowned it as the most sacred place on earth, the birthplace of the gods. It was their reverence and their stories that preserved its status through the centuries, passing its legacy down to us. The city had a second life, a second chapter, all thanks to the awe it inspired in the hearts of the Aztec people. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. It's truly amazing how one place can hold so many stories. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more hidden histories, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to uncover together. See you in the next video. Hello, and welcome back. We've journeyed together through the rise and fall of a civilization, walked the Avenue of the Dead, and gazed up at the monumental pyramids of the sun and moon. Now, we arrive at the end of our exploration, but not at the end of the story. Because the story of Teotihuacan is still being written, whispered on the wind and etched into every stone that remains. Today, Teotihuacan is more than just an archaeological site. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a designation that recognizes its profound importance to the shared story of humanity. It's a silent testament to a people whose name we may never know, but whose genius is undeniable. Think about it. A city planned with such astronomical precision, built without metal tools, draft animals, or the wheel. It was a metropolis born from sheer human will, intellect, and a deep connection to the cosmos. What we see today are the bones of a once vibrant city. Imagine this place 2,000 years ago. The Avenue of the Dead wasn't a silent, empty boulevard. It was a bustling artery of life. Picture thousands of people from diverse cultures, Zapotecs, Mixtecs, Mayans, living in their designated neighborhoods, their languages and laughter filling the air. The scent of cooking fires, incense, and fresh flowers would have drifted from the compounds. The pyramids, gleaming in the sun, would have been painted in brilliant reds, blues, and whites, their surfaces covered in intricate murals depicting gods, warriors, and cosmic events. This wasn't just a city, it was a pilgrimage site, a center of commerce, a crucible of ideas. It was the New York, the Rome, the Mecca of its time in Mesoamerica. Its influence radiated for hundreds of miles, shaping the art, architecture, and religious beliefs of countless other cultures. The feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, a deity so central to Teotihuacan's identity, would later become a cornerstone of the Aztec pantheon. The talitablero architectural style, that distinctive alternating slope and panel construction, became a hallmark of power and prestige, copied by cities far and wide. Teotihuacan didn't just exist, it set the standard. But the most compelling part of its legacy is the mystery. Who were these people? What language did they speak? What did they call themselves? Or their magnificent city? And why, at the height of its power around 550 AD, did it all come to an end? The evidence points not to foreign invasion, but to an internal fire, a deliberate, selective destruction of temples and palaces. Was it a rebellion of the common folk against a rigid ruling class? A catastrophic environmental collapse that led to famine and social breakdown? We may never have the definitive answer. And perhaps that's part of its enduring power. Teotihuacan forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge, to be humble in the face of the past. The Aztecs, who arrived centuries after the city was abandoned, found this place of giant, silent structures. They believed it could not have been built by mortals. They named it Teotihuacan. Known, the place where the gods were created. They saw the remnants of a divine race and wove this abandoned city into their own creation myths. It became their sacred ancestor, a physical link to the cosmic origins of the world. In a very real sense, the legacy of Teotihuacan wasn't just in its pottery or its pyramids, but in the awe and inspiration it instilled in all who came after. As you stand here, or even just watch from your screen, you are participating in that same tradition of wonder. Every visitor who walks the Avenue of the Dead, every archaeologist who uncovers a new mural, every person who learns its story, becomes part of its ongoing legacy. We are the inheritors of this mystery. The city is silent now, but its stones speak volumes. They speak of ambition, of artistry, of faith, and of the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. It's a place that invites reflection. What will our civilization leave behind? What stories will our silent cities tell 1,000 years from now? Teotihuacan teaches us that nothing is permanent, but that the drive to create, to understand our place in the universe, is a fundamental part of the human spirit. It is a legacy not just of a single culture, but of humanity itself. So, let's take a final moment. Close your eyes, if you will. Imagine the hum of 1,000,000 ancient heartbeats. Feel the warmth of the Mexican sun on stones laid down by hands to millennia. Ago! Listen! Listen past the noise of the modern world, past the chatter and the crowds. In the silence, you can almost hear them. The echoes of the gods, the whispers of a lost people, calling to us across the chasm of time. Their city may have fallen, but their legacy, the legacy of the gods, is eternal. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the heart of one of history's greatest enigmas. If this exploration of the past has sparked your curiosity, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There are countless more stories waiting to be told. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring.